Good day, everyone. In this lesson, I will teach you how to identify intercept of a rational function. So let me first introduce to you the learning competency of this module. So first, you are going to determine the intercept, zeros, asymptotes of rational functions, then solve problems involving rational functions, equations, and inequalities. So let us first discuss the definition of terms that you are going to na mai-encounter natin dito sa discussion natin. So we have here the zeros of a function. So meaning, these are the values of x which make the function 0. Okay, so you're going to find the value of x that will make the function equal to 0. And intercept of a graph of a function. Intercept, they are the x-intercept and then the y-intercept. Next is we have the asymptote. So asymptote, these are the lines such that the distance between the curve and the line approaches 0 as one or both x and y. Vertical asymptote, the vertical line x is equal to a is a vertical asymptote of a function if the graph of the function either increases or decreases without bond as the x values approaches from the right or left. And then the horizontal asymptote are the line y is equal to b of the function if the value of the function gets closer to b as x increases without bond. So, if we have a Cartesian coordinate plane, so let's say for instance, we have here the x and y or the Cartesian coordinate plane. The vertical asymptote is the line x is equal to a. So, yung vertical asymptote, ito yung vertical asymptote. They crosses across the x-axis or they intersect across the x-axis. Okay? And we have the horizontal asymptote. Sila naman yung nag-intersect sa y-axis. So, say for instance, we have here so this one is the horizontal asymptote. It intersect the y-axis. So horizontal asymptote, these are the line y is equal to b. So we have here y is equal to b. And the line that intersect the x-axis is what we call the vertical asymptote, or let's have here as x is equal to a. So kung saan siya nag-intersect, yung value, yun yung value ng a. And dito naman sa may horizontal asymptote, kung saan nag-intersect si line dito sa y-axis, yun yung value ni b dito. Okay. So let us first find the zeros of a rational function. So these are the steps on how to find zeros of a rational functions or the value of x. The first one is you're going to factor the numerator and denominator of a rational function, if possible. If the rational function is factorable, or if the denominator and then the numerator is factorable, then factor it. That is the first step on finding zeros of a rational function. Next is identify the restrictions of the rational function. So pag sinabi nating restrictions, these are the values that make the denominator equal to 0, or ito yung mga value na dapat hindi siya part ng solution set of the rational function. Kasi pag nag-0 si denominator, meaning to say that the rational function will become undefined. Kaya siya sinabing restriction, bawal na value of x. Then, yung third step is identify the values of the independent variable. So, dito naman, to find the values of the independent variable, sa numerator naman tayo mag-focus. You're going to make the numerator equal to 0 to identify the values of the given function. And to identify the values or to identify the restricted values of the given rational function, magpo-focus tayo sa denominator. Okay? And the last step is the zeros of the rational functions are the values of the independent variable that make the numerator 0 but are not restrictions of the rational function. Okay. So say for instance, we have example number 1. Let us find the zeros of f of x is equal to x minus 3 over x plus 1. Okay, so first step is you're going to factor. So since x minus 3 and x plus 1 is not factorable, hindi na natin siya pwedeng ma-factor, proceed tayo sa second step, which is you're going to find the restriction or the restricted values. So ano yung values ng x na, ano yung value ng x sa denominator that will make it equal to 0. So let us equate x plus 1 equal to 0 para malaman natin yung mga restriction na values or restricted values. So x plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay? Then, x is equal to transpose positive 1 to the other side. So we have here positive 1. Pag nilipat natin siya sa kabila is magiging negative 1. So therefore, x is equal to negative 1 is not part of the solution set. Why? Because if you are going to substitute negative 1 to the given rational functions, magsi-0 si denominator. Meaning to say that negative 1 is the restriction value or the restricted values. So meaning that x should not be equal to negative 1. Siya yung bawal na values of x. Okay? Next step is identify the values of the independent variable. So, in identifying the values of the independent variable that make the numerator equal to 0, let us equate the numerator equal to 0. So we have here, our numerator is x minus 3. Equate them to 0. So x minus 3 is equal to 0. Then solve for the value of x. So we have x is equal to positive 3 because negative 3, we have negative 3 here. If you're going to transpose this to the other side, so magiging positive 3. Therefore, the values of x that will satisfy to the given equation is equal to 3. Ito yun lang yung pwede. Therefore, the coordinate 3, 0 in the graph of the given function are the zeros of the rational functions. Okay. Next example is we have find the zeros of the rational function f of x is equal to x squared minus 3x minus 10 over x. Okay, so first step is we need to factor this one. So let us factor x squared minus 3x minus 10. So in finding the rational functions, we need to review all the way or all the method in factoring polynomials. So kailangan nating i-review yung mga factoring polynomials, yung ways on how to factor a polynomials. Okay, so in this case, we have here x squared minus 3x minus 10. So this is a trinomial. So we can use the factoring general trinomial where a is equal to 1. So we have here. So since x squared minus 3x minus 10 is factorable, so first factor x squared. So we put here x and x on the first term of the binomial factor. And since the last term is negative, so we put this as positive and negative. Okay. Now, let us find all the factors of negative 10 that will, if you are going to multiply that, the answer is the last term. And if you are going to add that, the answer is the middle term. So we have here negative 10. Since our last term is negative 10, so let us look for the factors of negative 10 that when you multiply, the answer is negative 10. So we have negative 5. So say for instance, we have negative 5 and positive 2. Okay. So tingnan natin. Negative 5 times positive 2 is we have negative 10. So if you are going to add them, let us check first. Negative 5 plus 2. Tingnan natin kung tama ang ating middle term. So negative 5 plus 2. So this is equal to negative 3. Okay. So since nag-satisfy siya sa ating middle term, and then if nag-satisfy din siya pag minultiply natin siya, nag-satisfy siya sa ating last term. Therefore, these are the correct factors of negative 10. So we have here negative 5, so isusulat natin siya dito sa may minus. So we have here 5 minus 5, and then yung positive 2 dito sa may plus, so we have here 2. Okay. So therefore, the factors of x squared minus 3x minus 10 are x plus 2 times x minus 5. And to determine if the factors are correct, you are going to multiply them using FOIL method. So we have x times x is x squared. So check natin, x times x is x squared. Then, x times negative 5. So we have here x times negative 5. So we have here negative 5x. Then the inner term, 2 times x. So we have here 2 times x is equal to plus 2x. And the last term, we have 2 times negative 5. So we have 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Okay. So yun, negative 10. So let us add or combine like terms, x squared. So you just copy x squared, nandito siya. Then negative 5x plus 2x is negative 3, which is our middle term, correct? And then copy the last term, which is negative 10. So therefore, our factors are correct. Okay. So let me first erase this one. Okay. So next, we have x as our denominator. So you just copy x here. Okay. Now let's proceed to our step number 2. Identify the restriction values. So the restricted values of here is we need to equate x is equal to 0. So we have here x is equal to 0. So since ganito na yung itsura niya, automatic that yung value ng x should not be equal to 0. So yun na. 0 na yung restricted values. Okay. Next step is we need to find the values of the independent variable. We have x plus 2 and then x minus 5. So we are going to equate them both by 0 to find the independent variable. To find the values of the independent variable. So x plus 2 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. So this is our third step. So x plus 2 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay. So dito na baga siya. So we have here, dito na siya, oh. So x minus 5 times x plus 2 is equal to 0. So binaliktad ko lang, kumbaga, pinagpalit ko lang si x plus 2 and then si x minus 5, pero same pa rin yan. Okay, then, use the zero product property or equate both the factors to 0. So we have here x minus 5 is equal to 0 and then x plus 2 is equal to 0. Okay? Then, solve for the value of x. So, if you're going to transpose negative 5 to the other side, so magiging positive 5. And, if you're going to transpose positive 2 to the other side, magiging negative 2. Therefore, the zeros of this function are 5 and then negative 2. So, ganun lang siya. Okay? Next step or next example, find the zeros of the rational function. Okay. So, in this case, so let us follow again the steps on how to find values or zeros of a rational function. So, first step is we are going to factor. So, dito na tayo mag-factor. So, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. So, since this is a trinomial, so we can use the general trinomial where a is equal to 1. Okay? So, two binomial factors. Again, binomial factors. Then, what are the factors of x squared? So, we have here x and x. Okay. X and x. And, since the last term is positive, so, pag positive si last term, just look at the sign of the middle term. Yun lang yung gagayahin natin. Since the last term is positive, this is positive, our sign for the middle term is negative. So, therefore, the sign of the binomial factors are both negative. Because if you're going to multiply negative times negative, the answer is positive. Okay? Next is, factor natin si 4, si positive 4. What are the factors of positive 4 that when you add, the answer is positive, is negative 4? So, we have here 2 and 2. Okay. So let us check this using FOIL method. X times x is x squared. So we have here x squared. Next, x times negative 2 is we have negative 2x. Then negative 2 times x is negative 2x again. Then negative 2, the last term, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Then combine like terms, you just copy x squared. So we have here x squared, ito. Then negative 2x minus 2x is negative 4x, which is our middle term. And then copy positive 4, which is our last term. So therefore, our factors are correct. Okay. Next is, we have here the denominator. So our denominator is x squared minus 4x. So let us factor this. Since this is only two terms or binomial lang siya, therefore, we can use the sum and difference. Why? Because they are both perfect square. X squared is a perfect square, and then 4 is also a perfect square. So we can use the sum and difference. And the operation is minus. So sum and difference, we have to write two binomial factors again. And how to factor the sum and difference of a perfect square? So you just get the square root of x squared. So what are the square root of x squared? So we have here x and x. So you write both x and x. Then what are the square root of 4? We have 2. So since this is positive and negative sum and difference, so we write positive and negative or plus or minus. And get the square root of 4, so we have 2. So you write 2 and then another one is 2. So yun. So now these are the factors of x squared minus 4x plus 4 and then x squared minus 4. So next is, we are going to find the restricted values. So since the restricted values for this is we have the denominator x plus 2 and then x minus 2. So let us find the restricted values. So x plus 2, equate them both to 0. So x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then we have x minus 2 is equal to 0. X minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve for the value of x. So in the first factor, we have x is equal to, since this is positive, so transpose this to the other side, so magiging negative. So x is equal to negative 2. Then x is equal to positive 2. Since this is negative 2, so transpose to the other side, so magiging positive 2. Or we use the addition property of equality, ha? Okay. So these are now the restricted values. So we have bawal ang negative 2, bawal ang positive 2 maging values ng denominator kasi mag-equal siya sa 0. So meaning, magiging undefined yung given na function. So bawal to any values of x except negative 2 and positive 2. Okay. Next is, let us find the values of the independent variable that will make the numerator equal to 0. Since our numerator has the same sign, x minus 2 and then x minus 2, we write this as 1 kasi pares lang naman yung value niya. So x minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve for the value of x. So we have here x is equal to positive 2. So as you can see, meron ba siyang kaparehas na value sa restricted values? So meron. So we have here x is equal to 2 and then we have x is equal to 2. Therefore, kapag sinubstitute natin si 2 dito sa ating rational functions, it will make the denominator 0 also. Not only the numerator but also the denominator. So since the value of x is equal to 2, if you are going to substitute that to our denominator x squared minus 4, the answer here is 0. Then, x is equal to 2 is also the restriction because it makes the denominator equal to 0. So, na-compute natin kanina that meron restriction values is positive 2. Kaya, ibig sabihin, yung dito sa independent variable is not part of the solution set. Therefore, itong given function na to has no zero. Because x is equal to 2, although it makes the numerator equal to 0, it also makes the denominator equal to 0, or it is also a restriction. So, ganun lang po siya ha. How to find the rational functions, the zeros of rational functions. First is factor the numerator and denominator if possible. Second step is identify the restriction values that will make the denominator equal to 0. And then the third step is identify the values of the independent variable that will make the numerator equal to 0. And then the fourth step are the zeros of a rational function are the values of the independent variable that will make the numerator equal to 0. So this is how are we going to find the zeros of a rational functions. Thank you and goodbye.